course, and we want to know what do you do? What do you think you eat so well during the pitch that works so well for us?
So, yeah, the first thing is that I was having some advantages. You don't know. Because you need to trust, right, with the investor. And the best way to do that is that you want to know what do you eat. So, yeah. The best way to trust is that you are connected to them, let's say, with a quality control, right? Somebody that has been invested by them, maybe the best thing. Hey, I'm one of your entrepreneurs. I have met this great guy. Yeah, let's just talk with them because they're in one, right? So this is like super qualified intro. If it can be from an LP, it's even better. Because hey, I have invested in your fund and I want to be a partner of this company. Please analyze it, right? So you need a super great qualified intro. And to build trust, I'm sure that I already been chatting with you and we have never met because I have met one of your partners like 7 or 8 years ago who was about money. I'm not sure that maybe he said something even before I was. So you were already prepared that, oh, this guy is serious. He's not just there's right? So maybe you were already expecting something special similar because somebody told you for days. Yeah, and actually during the pitch, what I always recommend to my listeners is that don't start with the big pitch. Just start small, just with some guys that you already know that the minimum pieces doesn't match. So it will be a no. But you just pitch. Actually, the work is to be right and you pitch. Because the good thing in the venture capital, even if they don't invest in the company, they will give you the guys that are working there and the guys, and they see a lot of people that just their lives with the company, right? So they are willing to help. So with the feedback that you will get here, you will improve your pitch. And actually, there are a couple of things that you will improve on a daily basis when you pitch. It's like what I would call wow effects. It's like looking into your eyes and what I say. And I know when you're like, oh, that was interesting. Right? And then mind note. That part was the wow effect, right? And then you need to have like 3 or 4 wow effects during your pitch, because then you will forget maybe if I do that close, you will not forget it, right? Actually, what I used to recommend before is like gesticulate a lot. Actually, there is one part in my pitch that everyone would hear it. They know exactly what I'm pitching because I'm telling I didn't know anything about me to live my life as an entrepreneur. I thought it was raising one because that wasn't interesting. And when I did like this, you told me you didn't get my point. I want you to live your life. And I know that this exact moment, the investment like, oh, storytelling is driving me into building the trust with this guy.
Yeah, there is something that you can he's permanently smiling. Yeah. Now when he's smiling, telling you, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm telling you about my project that is contagious. So I think that's very naturally. That is contagious. I wish a lot of from work because they probably don't realize the model that they have here today. Because as he said, he's one of the key entrepreneurs in Spain. But isn't it? Some of you might yeah. Now there was one thing because the way you selling is one thing that always comes from the objections, right? You need to be value, and then you have the objections, the cost. So everything that that will imply the customer not buy from you. Right? Let's go to the cost. Right now, you have one thing that was clearly a cost, and it was not evaluation of the company because we never knew the valuation of the company. That was not knowing how much the company was valued. But the other one was they proposed to invest to a convertible note which was the most exotic convertible bonds ever.
Yeah,
And
we invented it.
yeah, that's what we said. We don't understand the convertible bonds when we presented it. And we never saw it. And he said, yeah, you never saw it? We did. Oh. So that was a big obstacle for us. We are investing so much. So can you explain to us, again?
Yeah, actually, do you know the difference between a regular investment? There is a price per share that is fixed. You have so many shares. Convertible note is the right to have equity in the future with a discount. So you don't know the price per share today. You know you will have maybe a 20% discount or 15% discount from the price per share that will be in the, let's say, the qualified round. So convertible note allows you to raise money as debt, say, that will convert when the qualified round happens. So convertible notes usually they last between 6 months to 12, maybe even 15 months in some cases. Because this discount normally stays 15, 20, so it doesn't make sense like the price value with the discount, right? The timing. So what I did was breaking those convertible notes and thinking, hey, why don't make it super long, up to 38 months? So it's more than 3 years. We invest in my company and you're not it's a virtual right? It's we started in 2020, and then first February 2024. And we give a 2% monthly discount that is accumulated. So if you invested during the first month and the qualified run appears after 3 years, you will have 4 times your investment in 95. Because this would be a 76% discount. So if Sequoia comes and invests at 100 euros per share, you will go at 34. This is the multiple that we're giving you in the contract, like you have nothing to do anything else. And this is super risky for the entrepreneurs because, yeah, what I'm promising him some money, right? With this discount. Maybe I'm not that good at executing the money that's given to company value. The money that you're giving to me. This is a super bad scenario for entrepreneurs because we will give you a lot. But the good thing is that we have managed to raise 5 million euros, the 100% of the shares, and the is still from the founders. So we can execute super fast with that model. And actually, we can still raise more money. So we're ready. So if you want to invest, still ready. Actually, yeah, we had there also a double cut. One was to invest in our company, and they invest at least 200K. So you will utilize and convert. But we had a lot of network that wanted to invest in us, and we didn't have 200K. So we decided, hey, from 1K to 200, you can invest, but you'll never have shares. You will have like this debt that will be returned as phantom shares. The same economic rights, but no political rights. You will never sign the shareholders agreement, like the annual shareholders meeting, you will not be there, but you will make the money. That is actually why you need to invest. Because actually, yeah, during this background check with the VCs, the control that the VC will have over the company will be probably, yeah, very high.
So I don't know how much time we have. One more question?
1 minute.
1 minute. So 1 minute. You've been on both sides, right? As an investor and as an entrepreneur, looking for money from investor. Now, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs here or online when the phase of the negotiation comes about?
Yeah. If you did your background check well, you will not have many problems because the super sharks will not be on that table. You had on the table an invariant. Where you come from? Shark is one. In the sector, yeah. You will meet a great lawyer next to you. Yeah. That will be my first advice because there will be some clauses there that maybe one word can change everything. And if you're not a super expert in those kind of clauses, then yeah, you will need advice.
So thank you very much, Daniel, for sharing all this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, a bit disappointed that I wasn't part of that discussion. But I take it the rest of the panels I'm not gonna participate in. I don't want to do that again. Okay, so the next speaker up currently works for, well, what says here, the largest software company in Europe, SAP. I actually didn't know that. For its digital transformation strategy, master's degree in international business, organizational leadership coach. He's here to talk on the topic of digital hubs. Gianpaolo Fava, is that right?
I'm going to bring you with me to the country so you can tell. I hear there's people who sell to companies here, and there's also people who own companies. So I hope this is relevant to all of you. When I was coming here, technical assistance. So when I was coming here, I was thinking these previous years have been really interesting, right? We had a pandemic, we had political upheaval in like Iran and other countries, climate change even more, and we also had a war in Ukraine. So we're all living in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. It does not matter if you're a part of the government, if you own a company, if you work for that company. Because of this, when we look at what are the priorities and what is the concern on different board members, Gartner did a study with the CEOs and board members about this. And they found, there we go. So the three main concerns they had were the economy, and the economy. If you dig deeper into the surveys, you find some of the reasons why they are so concerned. The first one is because they cannot find the right talent. Second one is prices keep rising, right? More so energy prices. So if I have a supply chain, how do I keep those costs down? The final one, disruptive business models. We have one here, right? So how do we fight all those different companies and startups that are creating new business models? Because of this, growth as a priority for CEO has been declining over the past years. In fact, this year, the priority is 8% lower than it was last year. So yes, growth is still the biggest priority for CEOs, but they are also now thinking, how do I have the right talent? How do I reduce my costs in the supply chain? How do I digitalize my company to keep competing with all these new players and actors in the market, right? CFOs already know how to fight this. 78% of them said they will keep investing or even increase their investment in digitalization. Doesn't matter if the interest rates go up next year. Why? Because they get higher customer retention, higher customer satisfaction, higher ticket size, and customers are willing to purchase and spend more money if your digital journey is better than the competition. So when we talk about digitalization, it's not about the technology, it's not about bringing teams to the workplace so people can work faster. It's not about starting a marketplace so your customers can purchase online. Let's talk about digital hubs. I asked Google, what is a digital hub? And I got the answer. It's a European Commission strategy to help companies digitalize. It's a street in Dublin where a lot of technology companies have established their headquarters. And an interesting one, that I did not expect there, it's a place where people come together to create new ideas, products, services to push the future forward. So, as always, Google is right. A digital hub is a place where different teams come together from different backgrounds, from different places in the organization, and they create together new journeys for themselves and for their customers. And this in turn translates into more sales and lower costs. If you look at Barcelona, since 6 years ago, AXA, Facebook, Amazon, Deloitte, N26, these are all companies that have established digital hubs here. And the list is longer than that. SAP's Digital Hub was created in 2014. It keeps growing, and now we have 12 digital hubs across the globe that focus on sales and retention of customers. To me, a digital hub is the combination of people, processes, and technology. If you have people and processes without technology, you have low productivity. Have people and technology without processes, you have high costs. If you have technology and processes without the right people, you don't have innovation. So only by combining these three areas, you can really get sustainable growth. And by the way, you are selling to companies, and you don't own your own company. Think about this when you're talking to a CEO, to a board member, right? Think about those parameters that we talked before, because that's what's in their mind. That's what you're going to create the trust that we spoke before by knowing what's happening. You can always break that down this even further into 9 core areas for sustainable growth for your digitalization process in the company. You have the right strategy and you have the right resources assigned to that strategy. You cannot just be picked. When you plan your customer touch points and your internal employee touch points, are they planned based on the customer experience? Do you currently sell your services or products online and are getting revenue from that? Is information part of your P&L? So do you consider information an asset within your company financially? Do you have the current channel and ecosystems set up digitally? How fast do you innovate versus your peers and versus the competition? Is innovation part of your company culture? Does your leadership team promote digitalization within the company as a way to achieve growth? And finally, are you setting the right technology with your teams to enhance productivity? Once you can answer those questions and measure them, you can define whether you're an embryonic, intermediate, or at the leader stage in terms of how fast is your digitalization strategy going. Of course, we're not going to have time to go through all of this, and I didn't want you to be empty-handed. So go on this assessment from Gartner. You'll be able to identify across those 9 areas where you're sitting today, and you will be able to gain insights into how you are competing with the industry and with the overall market in those 9 areas. And on top of that, they will recommend you some next steps for you to improve those areas and move the needle forward. And by the way, it's free. And with that, thank you very much. I hope it.
All right, so we're mixing up the format again. The next section is actually going to be another panel. So the panel is with Javier Ramirez and Enrico Neria. Okay. You're
Online.
somewhere online. He's in the cloud. Okay. Okay, so this panel is going to be a discussion on what successful B2B companies do differently. So for Javier, founder and CEO of a company called Quota, a modern B2B sales consultancy for venture-backed companies. He's worked on 3 different unicorns in his career and even has Wall Street on his CV. Enrico trains B2B sales teams at Excedia Partners. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, guys, take it away.
Okay. Well, the idea was to have a presentation each and then be some debate. So, thank you very much. So I'll start with my slides. Thank you. I will be using very plain slides. I mean, I was very inspired by the previous slides with a lot of images and wow, I was thinking now I will use very simple text with white background. I hope you don't mind. So, what does successful B2B companies do different in sales? Many of the previous speakers have talked already about this subject. That is great, but I'm an engineer. I want data, numbers, because we all have our war stories. I did this in that company, it worked great. that's the solution to all sales problems in the world. And then you try to replicate the same recipe in another company, and it doesn't work. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. Yes, no, yes. Okay, that's me. I don't usually wear a suit and a tie, but yeah, I have put it that way. That's the name of the company. So, I will be sharing a piece of research that talks about what do successful B2B companies do in sales. So the piece of research, I would like to say that we have done this research. That's not the case. Please go to a company, US company called Sales Mastery. And this research analyzes more than 1,000 B2B companies every single year. They've been doing this for 15 years now. Okay? So I need to explain how it works, because otherwise I show the final result and you will say, what is this about? I don't get it. Okay, so bear with me. They evaluate three types of, I have too many things in my hands. Three types of criteria. First criteria, performance. Do they reach their objectives? How many salespeople reach their quota? How many salespeople leave the company willingly or unwillingly? What's the turnover of salespeople? Okay, that's criteria number one. Criteria number two is the level of sophistication of sales process. So we go from 1 to 4. 1 is not that good. Random. Random means everybody does what they want or can do or know how to do. Okay? And number 4 is, that's this great name, dynamic. That's basically formal, everybody applies it. There are metrics, they're being monitored, and they do adapt depending on results. So kudos to them. Okay. Criteria number 3, how customers perceive us. It goes again from 1 to 5. One approved vendor, you're one out of many I can buy from. That's the simplest level of appreciation from a customer. Criteria number 5, you are a trusted partner, meaning, well, many things. First of all, you're not just one, many potential vendors, but you know and the problem the customer is facing, you're capable of building a solution to solve the customer's problem. You also are an expert in the industry. And you get the company. You're talking to the customer company. You're an expert in the customer company. So all this is required to be classified as trusted partner. In general, I would say 1 is not that good and 5 is great. Okay, that's why I put 1 to 5. Okay, perfect. So, okay, why are these relevant? Because if we talk about the sales process, well, these are lots of implications about hunting, how we found new customers. Cross-selling, upselling, how we manage salespeople, what kind of tools we are using, CRMs, what kind of coaching do managers do with salespeople. All these are implications of this first axis. Second one, the one that you manage to turn it like, yes. Oh, too quick. Okay. Now, why is the level of relationship we have with customers important? Because it has also implications on final success. For example, if you want to go after bigger customers, they need to perceive you as an expert in the industry. It's very difficult to serve a bigger customer if you're just a newcomer. Customer loyalty or renewal. If you are in sales as a service, well, they need to renew. I mean, it's not necessarily automatic. And then probably identifying or having the customer opening up doors for cross-selling, upselling, and so on, and be different. I think he said one of the 5 principles was differentiation. So this helps a lot, less price sensitivity, better negotiation. I mean, this is really good. Okay, you want to be perceived as different from the competition. Okay, now they put these 2 axes, so you have to bear with me. This is an engineer's so, they 1 horizontal, 1 to 4, and 1 vertical, 1 to 5. This reminds me of a matrix, it's because it is a matrix. So we have rows and columns that you can't see, but here you have the columns and rows. Okay. So what they did is all these 1,000 companies, they classified them according to the process and the level of relationship, and then they put them in the right square, the right page. Right? What has worked? said, why should they be spending their time doing such a funny thing? I can think of many things that are more interesting. Now, so this is in 2018, they plotted the number of companies that were in the different cases, and these were only the most interesting or most affected companies. So they were distributed in markets. Well, again, they went back to performance ratios and they split them in the green ones. Green is always a good color, like in traffic. Okay. Good ones, best sales results, best performance. The yellow ones are yellow. And the red ones, how are the red ones? Yeah, that. Yeah, I didn't want to say that. Clearly not the best ones. I wanted to be politically correct. Okay. This doesn't mean they're about to go bankrupt. They're still making money, but not as much. They're not growing as fast as yellow. Okay. So, long explanation, and you might think, where's the magic in this? And I'm going to be talking about it for 5 minutes. So, when you put the colors, you see where the most successful companies were concentrated themselves. It was up here, in the right upper part. So, what does this mean? Think about your company, by the way you start. Would you say that your sales process is random? Well, I have bad news for you. It doesn't mean anywhere to only red companies kind of a random process. You need to have more sophisticated process. Would you say that you're one approved vendor to your customers, one out of many? Also bad news for you. You don't want to be, because most of the companies that are like this are not very successful. You want to be considered someone more vital. Yeah. Okay? So, this is 32.5 companies where the ones growing the most, and they concentrate themselves here, the yellow ones, the ones in the middle, and the bad ones. Okay? Now, let me ask you, so it looks like that it wants to be up there. Green is good, okay, like the traffic lights. Now, good question, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the Bay Area? No. Yellow one? No, you want to be in the green one, right? Everybody wants to be here. Now, where are you now? Red. But there's a difference. Red here or red there? That is right. Here. Well, good news. Well, later on you get into the green area. Isn't that fantastic? It is. So, and there are two big questions with this way of thinking, and this we start these markets. First is where you want to be in the green area. Everybody agrees. But the second question is where are you now? Because this makes a lot of difference. Because if you're here, it's very quick. You just improve your sales process, invest in some tools that SAP can give you, and that's great. That's done, right? Or increase the level of sophistication in the way you talk to customers. It's not just this is my product, you want it. No, connect the customer to needs, something like that. And you can get here. But if you're here, well, you have a lot of work. So this applies to companies, of course, but it applies also to companies of what? How many of you are companies of what? Or two. Two is also fine. Starting from one. So we need to learn. We always agree we need to move in this direction. And walk to the right, walk up there, because that's what the data say. That's what engineers say. These are raw data. These are not war stories. Then the second question is, what is easiest? What's that the quickest return? Moving to the right first or upward? This is a choice to them. Depending on where you are and what your resources are, this is what you need to think about. And that's it.
Let me give it a try. All right. Let's see if we can put. Oh,
You'll be asking questions.
hold on.
Yeah.
Wait here. Right, Javier. See if you can hear Javier. He's right from Miami, so it's far away. Javier, can you hear?
I can hear you guys. This is the fastest time that I've done from Miami.
Body language, okay? Just your body language. Hold on a
You guys
second.
can hear me.
How this speakers. No.
You guys hear me?
All right. Yeah.
I'm here.
Tic tac, tic tac, tic tac. Sorry about that, Javier. We're gonna then continue to the agenda. We have a very long agenda. Thanks for the time. We take speech. Amazing speech, Javier. Great. Nice. All right. Continue with the program.
We just caught up to the agenda. That's it. All right. Good.
All right. We just got some time there. We got some free time. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose we're just going to move on to the next speaker. So back to individual speakers here. The next one is going to be Tina Alstead. Yeah, there she is. Also from SAP. Originally from. Originally from Denmark, after living and working in Brussels, she spent nearly the last decade working for SAP here in Barcelona, from sales management to external relations, and she's going to be talking about talent retention and attraction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for everyone listening to me for the next 15 minutes. And the topic I will talk about, I believe, is one of the most important things for any company or leader to be good at. Actually, I'll argue that it's the most important thing to be good at as a company and leader. But the thing is about this topic that we are not really good at it because no one teaches us anything about it. There's no courses about it at university. There's very few books around this topic as well. So no one teaches us about it. And before I tell you what I'm going to talk about, I want to share a personal story that is related to this topic. And it starts in Denmark, in my hometown. So when I was 15 years old, I got my third job. And this was in a big supermarket that just opened up in my hometown. And there's thousands of shops around Denmark. The one that opened up here. And the store leader, Rasmus, was the name. I didn't never, so at that point when I started working there, I didn't know his face. But I did work from time to time with someone called Rasmus in my department. He was also picking up goods. He was also helping the customers. They were asking where are the different products. And talking to some of the other colleagues in the other departments, they also worked with Rasmus from time to time. So it took a while where we realized that the store leader, Rasmus, was actually the guy that everyone knew. Right? With me, I was only 15 years old. But the point I want to make here is that he was one of us. Right? He was delivering through us. He was working on the ground with us to really understand where it was that we were having challenges. And based on that, he made decisions to help us turn our challenges. So he was delivering through other people. I'm sure you've seen this many times. And there are many arguments as to how leaders deliver through other people. But the thing I want to argue here today that a leader or a company needs to be good at is to attract, find, and select the right people. And we need the best teams, in order to go out there and do all the sales activities that you want to go do, be the best companies and be the best leaders. So the nice introduction that Brett gave, where you heard I've been the sales leader and also now currently my title is head of external relations, blah, blah, blah. But actually, I consider myself a recruiter. And you might think I'm a little bit crazy, but I think we're all recruiters. Reason being that if we don't make sure that our next team member or our next colleague is the best talent, then it's not going to work, right? If we're not the best team, it's also not going to be the best company. And being the best team is a difficult thing, right? How do you actually attract, find, and hire? Right? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. You're all super smart human beings, so you know the cost of hiring the wrong people, right? And it's not just about the cost, it's also about the culture. If you don't have the right people on your team, the culture also goes down the drain. And it's also about our happiness as leaders and as co-workers as well. If we have to go to work every day thinking, oh no, I'm going to go to work talking or having to work with that person again, it doesn't make us feel good. For the wrong people that we hire, it's the same. They also feel good. People tend to know when they're not doing a good job, when they're not liked. So it's quite costly. Therefore, the recruiter mindset that we are recruiters. I followed this entrepreneur, Matt Janssen, who said once that leaders spend 10% of their time recruiting and 90% of their time they cover. I don't know how many of you can relate to that. Ooh, in my first job as a leader, no one took me aside and said, I will tell you the secret of how you select the best people. I don't know if you have the luxury of having that, but at least I know I did. So I wanted to share with you a bit of some of my hiring mistakes as well. The first one that I did as a first-time leader was that I hired people. We got along super well, not so many arguments. I'm fairly good at networking and building up relationships. So I built a team just like myself. But soon I realized that team is similar to a sports team. Like we can't all play the same position. We can't all be goalkeepers, quarterbacks. So make sure that you remember that our team is key. Like, to hire people that are different. Yeah, that's right. So the second mistake I did was sort of a bit hard to see here, but I hired people to do everything, meaning that they couldn't really do anything specifically well. I also hired people who were worse than myself, let's say, probably catering a little bit to the insecurity as a first-time leader as well. Not to say that they were worse than me, but at least finding people that I could develop and I could shape into becoming maybe little Tinas, I don't know. But at least I didn't hire the best people, which obviously is what we need to do, right? In our companies. And it's totally fine if they're better than us as leaders. It took me a while to realize, but it's totally fine. It's actually really good if you hire a team that's much better than yourself. The other thing I did, which was that we all need to go quickly, so we wanted really short recruitment processes. I really need to hire people really quick because maybe I'll lose the headcount tomorrow. I don't know. So I hired people way too fast, and I didn't really take the time, to really confirm my decision. They say that how within the first 5 minutes of meeting someone, you've already made up your mind, and you just spend the rest of the time confirming your own assumption about that person. So that's definitely what happens to me. And then the last mistake, a bunch of them, but the last one I want to mention is that I hired a single position without thinking too much about the team aspect, which is a very important thing to do as well. So the topic I promised you, I wanted to show you a little bit of how to, let's say, it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? But SAP, what are the things that we did talking about the location here in Barcelona for attracting, hiring, and selecting the right people. But before I do that and explain you some of the initiatives we launched, I wanted also to tell you about the challenges that we had. Because those hiring mistakes that I did, when I talked to the fellow leaders at SAP, I realized that I was not the only one, luckily, right? Because as individuals, we make mistakes, and that's how we learn better. But it also meant that as an organization, we needed to focus on this topic. And there were some general topics, some general challenges for all of us that we took into consideration before launching or building any new initiatives. The first one for us, which might be true for yourselves as well, but the fact that we're a B2B company, the fact that we are the backbone of our customers, and our customers are the ones that are in the forefront, which is absolutely great. That's how it's built, right? That's the way it can be. The point is just that it's a challenge for us as well, because the young talent that we're trying to hire don't know about us. We're not like Apple or Google or Amazon that's constantly interacting with the potential next talent we want to hire. So that was a bit of a challenge. It is still a challenge, not to solve small, but it's a work in progress. The other general challenge that we had across the organization here in Barcelona was that we found it difficult to actually explain the positions that we had. I guess that's true for many companies. You feel like you actually explain the position, the candidate understands. They start the first week on the job and they're confused because it's not what they thought they signed up to. You didn't think that was the person you hired. Maybe going back to we make up our minds for 5 minutes and then just look for things to confirm that at that time. So that was the general challenge that we had. We couldn't explain the positions well enough. And then coming back to the short recruitment process, right? We need to hire people super fast. You lose the head count, it's very costly, it costs a lot of lost revenue having an open head count. So we need to have a fast recruitment process. We didn't have a talent pipeline built up for that. So honestly, we often ended up hiring not the best people, but the least worst people. So some of the things that we did to try to cater for these challenges. So I mentioned 3 challenges. I'm going to mention 3 initiatives as well. We talk more afterwards about these topics or more things that we did. But the first thing was, so like I mentioned before, we mainly hire young talent, right? So we needed to be out there where our talent were. So in our case, that is the universities. We did not have any relationships with any universities, at least not from the location of Barcelona. So the first thing was to build up these relationships. And it's not just about going to a career fair once a year or whatever is true for the talent that you want to hire in your company. It's not about doing it once in a while. It's really about being in the faces of the student for our case. It's really about doing it all the time. And how did we do that then? So going back to the recruitment mindset, we're all recruiters. We are 340 people approximately in the location here in Barcelona, and almost 100 of us are what we call SAP ambassadors. That means those are employees who go out to those university events, whatever it might look like, and represent SAP and talk about their roles, explaining what it is that they do. Also trying to explain very well what it is that they're doing at the job so that people actually understand before they apply, or that at least in the first case that they just get to know about SAP and get to know about what we do and the different roles that we have here in Barcelona. And then the third thing, to try to cater for the short recruitment process that we want, we build targeted talent programs. We did several things, but one of the ones I want to mention is the SAP talent program, which means that a student that's doing their master's degree can be, let's say, it's more of a relationship plan. They will be part of a team at SAP throughout the time that they're studying their master. And then that way they will be getting to know the team, they will be getting to know the roles, they will be able to see, is that really fit for me, right? Is that a position that I would like? And vice versa. It becomes like a long recruitment process for the hiring managers to see if that person could be a good fit for the team or for the company. We're still doing a bunch of mistakes, by the way. We're still trying to launch a lot of new relationships, but that's the beauty of it, right? Before we need to make mistakes to learn and develop. And super happy to have what we do for talent attraction, but also what we do for talent retention, how we do our flexible policy at SAP, how you can do 10% of your time recruiting and 90% doing other fun stuff. Yeah, so happy to take the discussion further at the Ask Me Anything or at the cocktails. That was it from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, as you can see here, we have up next another panel session. This one's going to be 4 different people. So we have coming Laura, founder of Yihao, linking China to Spain and Latin America. We have Chin, founder and CEO of Explorer, yeah, an AI-driven platform to enter the Chinese marketplace. Oscar, MD and partner at Orbit, scaling startups and emerging in frontier markets. And Astrid, co-founder of Startup Investor Accelerator. Is that right?
Yeah.
Co-founded over 40 projects across the US, China, the Netherlands, and Spain. And so the topic here is tech internationalization, an emerging market with China as the example. Who's running this?
Hi everyone, how are you today? So I'm Chen. I have been from China, living in the past 12 years. I'm founding Explore as I said before. So we are helping companies in the Czech market get smarter, more efficient, and more sustainable. So I'm thrilled to have 3 amazing panelists with me today, Oscar, Laura, and Esther. So they all have broad experience with the Chinese market, and they speak better Chinese. So yeah, tell us a bit more about yourself and your experience with China. So ladies can start.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Laura. Hello, Oscar. I'm seeing you. Well, I'm the founder of Kickoff, which is the first business and communication platform between China, Spain, and Latin America. We work with funds, we work with companies, and we try to help opportunities between Latin America and China to come true. We do believe Spain is like the right place to do this link together, and our main purpose right now is focusing on Latin America. Well, I don't know if you remember, I met Oscar when I was living in Shanghai. I used to have a startup before related to video games, and I tried to raise funds in Shanghai with him.
Oscar, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a bit, not sure the audio is okay. The audio from my side is a bit difficult to hear, but I can hear mostly all your questions. So just let me know if you want me to say anything else. So myself, I'm Oscar. I've been living in China for the last 15 years. Before that, actually, I also lived for 12 years in Barcelona. So it's a really interesting connection, and a pity that I cannot be there on the ground. But I'm basically a venture capital investor. So I invest and work with startups. The fund that I used to work with is called SSV, and we ran a program in China called China Accelerator, which was the first ever accelerator launching not just in China but in Asia, where part of our work was helping investing in international startups coming to China, mostly in the B2B space. And an important part of our contribution, besides the investment, was to help them accelerate sales. So that's why I think this topic is actually quite interesting, and looking forward to have a deeper conversation later.
Thank you so much. I am Astrid. I'm a startup entrepreneur that works and lives in China, multiple places, United States, Netherlands, and in multiple places. I'm from Armenia, and I have set up several startups before, and yeah, currently around main economic development program program, we train angel investors, we train people to become investors, and we invest in startups. I moved to China when I was 18 to learn the language and culture of the country that has interesting business opportunities. I lived in Shanghai, I studied at I studied Chinese linguistics. Then I moved to Shanghai and studied at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics as business culture. So I want to, now that we are starting, I want to specify that emerging markets are many and various, and every country has to be treated with its own specification and nuances of its culture. China itself is an animal of its own, so the culture has to be understood to be addressed properly. And today my goal would be to speak from the cultural point of view, that's not so much technical, and have you lead with some understanding of some concepts such as fancy connection or face or billion or or so on. So we'll give you the details of those.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. So we are talking about tech internationalization in the emerging markets in China. We have several videos who got it already. Amazon did make it. Facebook did make it. It's also true that there are a lot of initiatives going on both from the private sector and from the public sector. For example, we have the Shenzhen Innovation and Certificate competition happening every year around the globe. And Spain have a compete. Yes, so in this current economic and political climate, a lot of companies are pulling back, but also there are companies thinking this is an opportunity, a time to enter the Chinese market. So I'd like to know what are your thoughts regarding this? So what are the current opportunities and challenges in China?
Well, first of all, we might want to focus on Spain. Right now in Spain and China is a really good moment. Relationships are going really, really well. Next year is going to be the 50th anniversary between the relations between Spain and China. That means it's a really key point for investors and new opportunities. So taking that into account, I think that it's really positive. And also all these, like movements from the governments are going to help a lot of opportunities. And I think that's from the main point, to start this argument. From that point on, let's build with the strategies we can make.
I'll connect. So looking at it from a cultural point of view, well, China is huge. Geographically it's huge, the amount of population is huge, and no matter where it goes, it's not going anywhere. I see the market still being big and full of opportunities for several points of view. So first thing, it seems to be moving away from the West. There are still opportunities, and there are still quite a few. There's quite a bit of excitement for foreign companies, especially for companies that come from reputable countries such as Germany, France, or Spain. The public view is that these are things that are prestigious, so the tech is more advanced there. So there's a bit more excitement and also interest in paying probably a premium price for such products in this kind of country. And even though the economy is not growing as fast as it used to be, it's still growing quite fast. And one thing about the opportunities is that because it's so big and has so much population in different places, you can employ different types of strategies. Like if you come make it in Beijing to Shanghai doesn't work with the countryside, focus on second tier things or third tier spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing other successful local cases as well. Yeah. Addressing different always
Yeah. If I have to address challenges in the challenges I see would be understanding the Chinese culture and building relationship. Once you the word for Chinese in relationship is very important, and it takes time to build that. Another challenge I see is in line, understanding the people and so on, but also making sure your tech doesn't get copied and sold cheaply there. So with that, there is a solution for that.
So now for Oscar. Oscar, right here.
I guess President is welcome.
Yes, we did.
Sectorial, if how is your industry evolving in the Chinese market, what competitors, counter effects, how are you going to manage the differences? Also your team setting, if you have the right human resources to develop markets. So, in your experience, have you ever heard any like stories managing well those aspects or any other aspect?
I have a fun story, a crossword. It's a big deal. It's not tech. I promise I'm not talking about tech. I'm talking about culture. The crossword got into Beijing, trying to live here, and the market school found it no here. They went to Shanghai. They need the PP, like the guns, they like there. Nothing. They find it really hard. They moved to the countryside. They moved to the countryside, targeted the countryside, normal Chinese working with them. And soon enough, they were the choice of beer for countryside Chinese men. And soon, they moved out of the countryside, took over the cities, and now they're one of the biggest Western companies in China. So this gives her inspiration of the going 7-year strategies and really know what you have done or how much you think to the next one. Try with a new agent, try with a new model, and try with a new model. It's a story.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, to have a picture, I will do believe Spanish, Latin, and Chinese people we have more things in common regarding culture than what we expect. For example, every time that we go to visit with Chinese people, we look at the table. You need to have a lot of language with Chinese to use the table. But agree with me. So those things that some close we are to each other. And also when talking about China, it's really important to understand their culture. For example, I don't know if any of you sell to China or do things with China. So you probably know they don't use the same social media as we do. So that's one of the first things you should take into account. We have WhatsApp, we have an official account on WhatsApp. And for example, we don't use Instagram or Facebook enough for Chinese market. Those kind of things are key aspects when talking about China. And just another thing, we all have this in our picture setting in China. When you want to set in China, it's you can set in all China. No. Every region is different from each other. So you really need to see first if the product is ready to go to China, and then decide which is the city or the area you are going to focus on. And those three aspects, like cultural, social media, and also like knowing which is the exact area you need to go, are three basic aspects when we talk about
Yeah. Maybe some. I promise not to speak about it, but let's go for it. So which one is a good one? Be prepared also to be using Chinese language to be marketing yourself, obviously, but also be ready to be changing your company's name with something that they can pronounce. You are not going anywhere with your fancy English long name. Pronounce and understand. Also, understand the relationship is personal, so your hopefully is hopefully LinkedIn and Twitter doesn't apply there. And in terms of building a relationship, you really have to be building a relationship with the right person in the company. Maybe one more thing is that Chinese people love stars. They love their famous people, but they're international people. So if you go through some international marketing or get someone watching for yourself, which is important that you have a way better chance to win than any Chinese person. So on that.
Thank you. Let's try with Oscar. Can we hear now? Oscar?
Yeah, we bought it.
Yeah, I think I just gave up on the other one. So There's a lot of echo. Okay, so in terms, I guess that we're in the question on the do's, based on what I was able to hear, I guess we're in the question on the do's and don'ts of sales in the Chinese market. In my experience, after working on my own companies that I built when I moved to China, and then working with over 50 startups entering the Chinese market, I'll say that one of the key things, and this is maybe a bit biased to for technology products, is that it's very, very, very important, and it might sound really obvious, but it's very important to figure out exactly what is your value proposition for the customer. Because the Chinese market is really big, so everybody thinks, hey, I just need to get a 1% of that market. But the truth is it's also a very competitive market. It's a very competitive market because everybody from outside of China thinks about China as a large market. Some people don't want to enter the market for multiple reasons, but there's still a lot of people from outside of China that wants to enter the market. And obviously the internal competition is very, very tough. So it's very important to actually find your differentiation and make sure that that differentiation is something that the customer locally cares. I always use a very simple example. So I talk with people that brings technology products, and I use a very simple example. Think about organic fruit in China. You want to bring organic fruit in China, and then you try to explain people there that, hey, my organic fruit is very respectful with the environment. You try to explain them that the organic fruit is very, it tastes better. And you can say, hey, my organic fruit is very healthy. But the real issue that most consumers in China have regarding food is food safety. So if you wanna sell your product in China, what it really matters is the food safety. And that's not only about that. That has implications not only in the core value proposition, but how do you actually create your messaging, your packaging, everything else around your product. Second thing in that aspect, in terms of practical elements, is that there's a lot of international companies that they assume that when they go to China, they are going to go there to sell to Chinese customers. And most likely, this is what is going to happen for a lot of companies after they're able to enter the market. But the key thing, every time you launch a new product and entering the Chinese market, is a process very similar to launching a new product, because all the different context elements that were introduced by the other panelists, you need to think about your early adopters. Who are going to be your early adopters? Who are going to be the first companies that will understand your brand, your value proposition, everything that you bring in, and you will have an easier time to adapt the product. If you have to adapt 100% of it, it's going to be quite challenging. If you need to adapt 80% of it, it would be less challenging. And if you only need to adapt and adjust 50% of it, you will be able to focus on making better that 50% that needs to be adjusted, and slowly proceed and access to the more local market. I think you need to unmute.
Just one piece advice. Oh, sorry. I'm interrupting. One piece advice for entrepreneurs or sales managers who want to enter the Chinese market.
Okay, that's a big first of all, needs to be involved. First of all, dedicate time. Don't think China is something you can do in the short term. Just be focused that you need to invest a lot of time, and also a lot of time in meeting people. The name of the cosa is Conecta, and how Conecta, before you were saying that, the meaning of Conecta. You really know connect with the right people. Today is the best example. We are all going to connect together. But with China, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to choose to pick the right people. So,
Yeah,
Okay,
most people.
So I'll say, well, understand the culture, understand who you are dealing with. You are dealing with a very sensitive, different sensitive people than you're used to. So without those, understand hierarchy, understand who is leading down, who is the boss, who you're respecting. Make sure you're talking to the right person. The coordinator is not going to be making the decisions, so don't waste your time on that. And maybe a good thing to do if you have a chance to meet them in person. Well, take a gift. Throw here and there sometimes worth it. In person, very happy. Expect to be invited to their home for maybe a dinner or like their long drink, and don't go give them a hug.
Well, okay, I like to sometimes when these type of questions get asked be a bit controversial. Okay, so my first piece of advice for anybody that wants to come to China and bring their business there is don't do it. Okay, that's the first piece of advice. Forget about it. Don't do it. And if after that piece of advice you still think maybe I should do it, why not? Okay, maybe we can talk. Okay, but the truth is that there's certain types of opportunities for the expansion of your company that would be something that you can test it. Okay, but in China you either go full steam into the market or you don't do it, because it is a very competitive market. It is a very tough market. So do your homework before that. Go there, because there's a lot of things that you can do from your home market without having to get into the market that will actually help you define where do you need to go. I mean, when I was moving to China 15 years ago, my goal was, I'm going to move to Hong Kong. And then one conversation moved me from Hong Kong to Shenzhen, and another conversation moved me from Hong Kong to from Shenzhen to Shanghai. And I almost moved to Beijing instead of Shanghai. But having those conversations really helped me find the right place for me to move for the type of work that I wanted to do as an international entrepreneur, working on this cross-border type of setup. So that would be my controversial piece of advice.
So much for your time, for our amazing speech panelists today, and we are out of time.
You're right on time. I can't quite believe it. Mario, how do we turn this on? I can't quite believe it, but we only have about 3 more minutes of content, which is to say time really flies whenever things are that interesting, right? So next up is Daniel Young. All right, Daniel Young, let me give you a quick introduction. Former president of the Berlin Chamber of Commerce. You're Daniel, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, former president of the Berlin Chamber of Commerce. So I'm sure you have quite a few stories to tell us.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mario, for having me here. Thank you to listen to all these wonderful stories. My story is a bit a different one. We are talking about technology and we are talking about sales, but it's about emotional. I mean, you sell because you sell also the emotions, to sell the numbers, it's to sell the technology. So, what I want to the presentation is because I need it. Yeah. I'm going to go fast. No. I'm German, so I'm really like, you see?
Yeah, I think mine have
Okay. You haven't used the PDF now, right?
Yeah, it's out.
Yeah, so okay. It's about
2 seconds delay. So press the mark.
Okay, so it's about getting the expo to Berlin, and the question is, how can we manage it? How can we organize and how can we convince people, especially in politics, but also society, to organize big events or how venues, because especially in Germany, we have big problems when we are talking about Olympia and other big venues. Everyone says, no, we don't want. Why is that, and how can we convince them? So can I press it? No?
Yeah.
You said one. Yeah. Okay, so that's me, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm a company. I started 15 years ago. Last year was very impressive because I become Chamber of Commerce with 330,000 companies, all companies of Berlin. So what's the big problem? Everyone knows we are the problem because we are consuming, we do bullshit, we use energy and so on. And why does everything take so long? Because we're used to. There are a lot of big business models, like more than 99%, I guess, are like old-fashioned business model, and like, why should they change everything? Maybe they say it, but why at the end, why they should change it? So at the end, how you can convince society also organize changes to this or change these changes is, okay, who is behind the scene? Who are these people? And we know some of those guys, but I would say the really big ones, we don't know them. So, and why I'm trying to bring the expo to Berlin in a democratic country, you know, where all these big events are happening currently. And so, because I think that the butterfly effect is not enough. So we need really a big event to convince society, to bring a big push, to go forward, to change us, to change our world, to change Berlin, Germany, and the world to be sustainable in the future. So why big events have become so unpopular? I mean, you know all these people, and I mean, when you read this, we're talking about Winter Games in Saudi Arabia in 2029. So, I mean, you know, people understand that there are like maybe some things happening which you don't understand. So, if you look to the next expo, by the way, in Osaka, 2025, and now is the question, what will happen in 2030? And Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, have two chances. I don't know why, maybe because they have money, or maybe they have also quite good concepts, but this is one of those concepts you know, it's a new big smart city, it's one by law, but which problems are there solved? Like how scalable are those problems? For example, in Berlin, how can you solve traffic jam in Berlin? All these ideas you're working there. So the big question is, why should we bring exports or back venues to democratic countries? Because we have problems which are like everywhere. They're in all the big cities. So if you solve a problem in a big city, you can here like in Berlin, you can scale it well in other cities. So this is why we want to bring the expo into a democratic country like Germany. So who have we to convince that we get the positive reaction? Of course, media, the economy, we need to support us. In society, we need the permission to do that from the local politics. They only do it, of course, if the society wants it. The society is typically against such big venues. So then afterwards, convincing national politics and to start the official application in 2025. So we have 2 years to go. So, and what's the idea? Berlin should be the expo. We don't want to build some pavilions in a desert. No, the whole city has to be transformed in a sustainable city. You all know the 17 global goals, like maybe not in the details, but 70 global goals, like it's carbon dioxide free city and so on. So the whole city has to be transformed with all these people are living there. That we are not in a dictatorship where someone said, okay, we are doing this. No, we have to convince everyone. We have to work with everyone. So we need to do a lot of communications and marketing, and everyone has to participate with it. So we want to also change buildings, which we have a lot of buildings which are not used currently. So we need a new life or new ideas for that. And so we also want to have a positive future or a positive vision for our future. And I guess Berlin is the right place for it. So you see an example. This is today's ICT. It's 20 years, I guess, empty. There also comes Corona center inside. So what can be there in the future? We need ideas, and of course, we need to change everything in a short time. So you can't see the big deal in the middle of the city, Temple Buffet. It's 5 square kilometers big. So let's do it. But do it with the people they live. We need to listen to them, and everyone has to join it. And so this is what we are working on it. And I guess, yeah, please. So you are the first guys pitching to it. So we're really at the beginning, but when we see us in Berlin in 2035, so you can remember today. So it was like the first time I was talking.
All right, thank you, Daniel. So last but surely not least is actually the main host of this entire event. It's Mario Paladini. Before he comes up here, though, I want to take the time to like truly sincerely thank everybody, all of you speakers with the amazing insights and like talent. I mean, like pure talent. Every single one of you that came up here. It's truly impressive. You guys, by the way, all the attendees as well for coming, being that this is the first major event that we have had, not the first event, but the first major event that we have had in Barcelona. You guys are the early adopters, those intrepid explorers. You guys are carving out this path for this community. Thank you so much. Mario, get up there. I'm good. Yeah. All right. Shout out to you guys. But so what we here, the whole intent of all this is basically cut my. So I explained at the beginning why we're putting this teaser together to bring the 20,000 state leaders and just build my computer. So we need to do some, of course, with start the bootstrapping. We need to do some like last minute technical. So thank you my team again. So patient as well as big plans. So maybe we want to share actually with you like the concept of this event. Actually, so we find out these 5 things. Share the latest technology process, the right partners like media, like associations, like everything that enables you to enter the market and accelerate. Customers, share some customer success stories, share some talent. And we hear from Tina, so how to attract the best sales leaders. If you're looking to enter into the sales tech companies, how you can match this to get a job marketplace. Literally, there's so many great methodologies we're learning here today as well. So just give the patient as well. So who we're targeting the founders. For the founder need to be actually the sales #1 persons in the company. The VP, director, sales champions that we're targeting. Companies are growing, they're expanding. Industry wants to ICT, finance, insurance, real estate, fashion, and tourism. Those are the tools, the industry that we see potential here in Barcelona and Spain that they're starting. And also we see
some topics that we see key actually to share in March, the next event. Future of sales, what's going to look like? We started with calling, sending mails, now social media, we talk about WeChat. What are the tools there? How are we digitalizing all the process? How automatize? What are the artificial intelligence tools? There's now sales machine as well. So there are many tools that we don't know still there. The idea is to bring together content on exhibitors to come all together, learn about sales methodology, fire system, and share about success cases, key dating tools, and awards at the end of the year to celebrate together. So we did already a press event. It's the 17th of November, the kickoff event for this Global Sales Tech Festival, 2nd of March next year. It's a very strategic day, actually. We know there's a lot going on because this the last year the Mobile Congress. So all the states are getting together here in Barcelona. So we are super excited to welcome them. So let them know, all your colleagues, friends, everybody who's going to be coming, to stay longer, stay one more day, actually. I know it's going to be a lot of going on that week, but it's a big opportunity to bring all these tech leaders to come together and empower them. So that's pretty much from my side on regarding the arena. Just like Global, we've been more than 10 years connecting people and business with more than 30,000 contacts, 120 events around the world. We're very passionate about making sure to go to the right talent, the right entrepreneurs, investors, and some of the examples that we've been organizing around the world. The latest in Berlin, more than 1,000 people, the Welcome Day as well. Of course, pandemic was previous as well for us, but we made it through. Here you can see some pictures from our last event, also in Barcelona, nice terrace, nice view. Some friends are here on. And the magic of this connecting people is the glasses. I'll tell you quickly the story of the glasses later. Actually, you can see all the color of the glasses in the graph that goes down, so where the focus are. And it's just for me to give you focus rates in the next milestone. I started 10 years ago with focus on product, and then I decided, okay, it was such a good brand, personal brand for €1 after going to the team after my team. So I said, okay, the only picture in the Irish Time, in the Web Summit, was me with the red glasses. So it's a keep the glasses, change the colors, and then the first capture, white glasses, first investor, red glasses, and so on. That was the story of glasses. That was the last event. We did it very for 80 partners, 65 speakers. We created the IT sales global community. LinkedIn was the largest IT sales group with more than 40,000 members. So invite you as well to engage there, to find inspiration, to find talent, to find, and basically that's the decided to do the first event of this community that we've been working on 15 years. So I cannot face without thanking all our partners who are supporting us on production, on media, and we're going to enjoy some nice empanadas later after we go to the nice terrace, the nice view. We're going to have some nice alfajores as well. We have some helping us with the pictures. Martin, where are you? Videos as well, Maria. So we have partners, Metropolitan Picture as well. So everybody who put everything some time to the table to make it happen. And I'm so proud actually that we're going to be a very big success in March. So without further ado, we can do the last video, okay? And then we can go all upstairs to the terrace and enjoy, all right?
Yeah, just stand there.
Yeah. Sorry. Right. I have to apologize because exactly. So we had two activities that we're supposed to do actually, but we were so concentrated on the main stage. So we decided actually we have two experts here today on the event. So we have Josie. We have Josie as well. That she's a woman, a leading woman that's inspiring and connectors. She has a very good tips how to network. And we're going to do some speed networking. So my proposal is, and also we have Gerard, where are you? Hello, a pitch doctor as well. So we're having an elevator pitch. And so you can practice your pitch. There is your first contact. So we're going to take upstairs. We're going to have the last video. We're going to upstairs. And this two, I'll give the microphone then to Josie upstairs. And she'll give us some tips for how to network. And then, come on, Josie, come on.
Wow. Initially, we had to have an hour kind of working activity, but as we are in teaching routine, we decided to change it a little bit, and I asked this wonderful man called Saran, who is going to actually help me and put something together, which it has nothing to do with what we actually had planned. So, that's I will try to have a little bit of for a few minutes and then and the exercise section.
So we have the last surprise for you guys, and then we can walk. One. Right in time. Right in time. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. So that's the final comment. And I would like to share my echo. I would like to share with all the speakers that came over here and share the knowledge. I would like to share the global mission with you guys. And then we can do a nice picture all together on the back of the post. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the speaker. And then banana drinks on the terrace.